Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be doing a session where we show you how to bring compliance-sensitive workloads onto Google Cloud. This is a particularly interesting topic. I think it covers a lot of different industries. When we talk about compliant workloads, we're thinking about workloads in financial services, in insurance, healthcare, infrastructure, telecommunications. But beyond just those industries, we think this content is also very relevant for ISVs, who are perhaps serving end customers in those industries, and startups who are looking to serve those customers too. I'm joined today by Chris and Jatin. They're going to be doing a demo-led session. You found your way to Ballroom D. The D stands for demo, so wish us luck. In terms of the agenda today, Jatin's going to start off by walking us through how we enable regulated workloads to be brought onto Google Cloud. We have a unique approach, a software-defined approach, which we think brings some unique benefits versus other cloud platforms. We're going to be doing two demos. One of them will be bringing a ML workload and running it in a compliant environment on Compute Engine. And then we'll be demonstrating building secure guardrails. So these are guardrails on top of your underlying compliance posture to solve problems, including security, cost management. We'll be wrapping things up, and there'll be some time at the end for questions. Maybe to kick things off, Jatin, could you give us an overview of the assured workloads?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, folks. Jatin, product manager for Assured Workloads. So not a lot of people know, in 2010, we actually had a GovCloud region. Of course, it didn't last long, but it left us with a lot of learnings. And what we did is we used those learnings. We heard from our customers. We took that feedback into account, and we made sure that we reinvented this technology so that it can meet the needs of any regulated customer on cloud in a scalable way. It's called Software-Defined Community Cloud, and we productize it as Assured Workloads. It's a fundamentally different and efficient, approach to GovClouds because it sets up compliance guardrails that are software-defined just on top of your commercial cloud, so you don't lose any of the scale, any of the speed that you expect from cloud, and you get your regulation outcomes met very quickly as well. As I mentioned, these are some of the benefits, right? So you're able to deploy your regulatory workloads without having to compromise. So there's no different APIs, no different accounts, no different organizations. The organization you currently have, any even workloads you currently have, you're able to bring those into Assured Workloads or build new into Assured Workloads, and that meets the controls from the get-go, including a move analysis API that helps you move things into Assured Workloads for that matter. And the simplified approach really helps us kind of drive the cost down of GovCloud significantly because it's a software layer on top of our regular commercial cloud because we didn't have to go deploy new data centers altogether. There's no extra additional cost that comes down to our customers here, which is a huge benefit. There's a bunch of acronyms, alphabet soup here. I'm not going to go through these, but these are a lot of different compliance frameworks we currently support through Assured Workloads. They're available and GA. There's a few in blue color, I believe, that are coming up soon as well. I think the key thing to point out here is that a lot of the services you know and love on GCP, like your compute services, your big data services, storage, networking, a lot of those are compliant and available through Assured Workloads directly as a compliant layer on top. And so you're able to just use your current APIs, your current Terraforms, any other automations you may have set up on cloud in a scalable manner. Of course, I'm a product manager for Assured Workloads. I love it, but don't take it from me. Here's a couple of customers who have succeeded in achieving their compliance outcomes very quickly with Assured Workloads because what it does is sets up a lot of controls on your behalf, which we'll go into a little bit of detail later on. It makes sure that you can get to your compliant stage, so you can go for certifications or any legal approvals that you may need or self-attestations sooner than later because we take away a lot of that set of work or take care of a lot of that set of work for you. Iron Mountain, they gained a lot of ground by achieving FedRAMP moderate on FedRAMP moderate certification using assured workloads and inheriting our authority to operate that we already have with JAB. Similar with Broadcom as well, who they were able to unlock and expand their reach into regulated market using assured workloads in a pretty remarkable amount of time. So Chris, with that, anything I can help you with?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello everyone, Chris Perry here, and I have the honor of being your application developer. And when we wanted to come up with a demo for today, I wanted to take a little bit of inspiration from where we are in Vegas. Because about 15 years ago, when I was a younger and relatively fitter person, I served the United States Army, and my first time to Vegas, I was doing a training exercise out of Nellis Air Force Base. And how this training exercise worked is thousands of people went, they did their missions in small unit groups, and after the mission, we'd all report up, we'd do an after-action review. We'd talk about how the mission went, we'd give feedback, and then leaders at every echelon would take the feedback, consolidate it, and provide it higher up. And so by the time a senior leader got to get the review of how things worked, it was this very manual, very long process. What if we could use machine learning? What if we could use a simple tool that can aggregate and do sentiment analysis on this feedback and provide that data with a lot less effort and get training feedback a lot better? And because we're doing a mock Air Force scenario, I'm going to play the role of an Air Force application developer, and we're talking about training information, we need to adhere to impact level 5 for this specific scenario. So we're going to use infrastructure workloads, using assured workloads here. That's going to be preset up for me to build my application doing machine learning. We're also going to throw one more curveball in this because we're trying to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. For this specific scenario, we're going to optimize for cost. We're going to try and make sure that we derive a high value without breaking the bank and taking money away from other initiatives. So with this specific in mind, Jatin, can you be my cloud administrator and set me up a shared workload environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very intense application you're about to develop. We try to at least take away the pain of compliance from you. So we can switch to the demo real quick. Awesome. So you're familiar with the resource manager here, and you know how to create folders in your assured workload or in your normal organization. We made it pretty simple. We just added one more place where you give us the indication of which compliance outcome you want to achieve, and we set that up for you. So you click on Assured Workloads Framework or the Assured Workloads folder, and then type in the name of the folder here, and we can go from here. Next. I'll select the organization to be the heavily regulated organization I have here. And you select the folder parent as you usually are known to. I'll let it sit under the top node, the org node for now. Since I believe you said IL5, right, that you want to deploy? Okay, that's a regulatory control. And if there's any questions about it, I can come into this handy dandy pop-up in the UI itself that lets you figure out which compliance type or which compliance framework you want to achieve and where it may live. So within regulatory controls, let's go into public sector and let's try to find IL5 here. Okay, beautiful. That's it right there, and it explains at the very high level what it's setting up for you. So it's going to set your data residency settings to be in United States, in the continental United States, and it's going to be across all our data centers. And then also make sure that any support personnel that support you with these projects or these workloads are also enhanced background checks and are sitting in US and are US persons. So let's select IL5. I'll give it a location. So we're in Vegas. Let's go with the Vegas data center here. Alternatively, I could use the US multi-region as well, which allows for all the US regions to be available in my workloads. Last but not the least, it gives you a review of what you're setting up. It gives you information about authorized support, personal requirements. A lot of these controls we'll touch upon in a second here. And once I hit create, that folder spins up and goes ahead and deploys in your environment. But it's demo. It's a live demo, so we do have a pre-baked version here. Chris, how do we go ahead and set up the sentiment analysis here?
Well, why don't we take actually a deeper look at some of those controls real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Can we switch to the slide real quick? Sweet. So, these are, of course, through the UI and through the experience, whether you use API or CLI as well. It just asks you for one kind of framework or just lets you put in the compliance type that you want to achieve. But these are some of the salient controls we set up in the backend for you so that you don't have to worry about all of these kind of different controls that you have to set up. So a few key ones I want to call out. Data residency, it's a pretty key component of most compliance requirements across the globe, right? So depending on whether you want to use something in Australia or you want to use something in US or European Union, we set those data residency controls to use only the data centers that are accredited and available in that specific geography. Data access control, so any pathways to your projects where a Googler may need to come help you with any of the projects or any of the issues that you may have, those are correctly set up to make sure that the people in correct authorized background checks locations are the only people who are helping you with these workloads. That is also achieved through access control and access transparency, where you're able to decline or allow an access request like that from a Googler sitting in the right location, as well as with the right background check, like with IL5 and CJIS has a couple examples there. And last but not the least, a lot of customers did tell us that they were afraid that developers may spill their data into a non-compliant service accidentally by turning it on. So we came up with another control called resource usage restriction, and that locks down your environment into only the compliant products. So that way it makes sure that there's no additional spill, or there's not even an accidental spill of your regulated data or sensitive data into a non-compliant service.
So you're saying all that happened in a little workflow you just did? Mm-hmm. That seems pretty easy. So let's see, can I just set up a workload now in this folder and it'll work just like a normal compute instance?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's see how this goes.
Let's go to demo.
Go to demo, please. All right, so in this case, I have, again, a pre-baked demo here of a G-Cloud command, and we just put it right in, and we're just gonna run this real quick. And as you can see, we have our sentiment live demos are hard, so we have something running here, just in case something goes wrong, because we've already ran this. There we go. See, this is why live demos are hard, everyone. But because we have this running, I think we could just go back into the slides, and I'll talk a little bit about what we just built here to achieve our machine learning objective that we had before. So in this specific case, I decided to use CPU-based inference server. You might be asking, CPUs, we've been hearing all about GPUs and TPUs, and those are profound pieces of technology, but in many cases, a CPU can deliver the exact value that you need to run your machine learning workload at a cost-effective scale. You might have reservations that already exist, and you can use your CPU reservations to accomplish your machine learning goals. They're also able to be protected by confidential computing, which is an advanced layer that blocks access to encryption keys to eliminate threats of things like insider threats from accessing any type of data. And also, because CPUs are available in every data center, they have the max amount of availability, and so this might be what you use to meet your needs. And so when you're looking at types of workloads that you want to do, GPUs, TPUs might be the exact thing you need, but we're going to just show CPUs here today. And what we actually ran inside of that VM that we started up just a moment ago is a Neural Magic server, and we have the Neural Magic team here if anyone has any further questions on this. But Neural Magic specializes in providing this high-value machine learning capability, in this case natural language processing, on cost-effective CPUs. And so running a relatively cheap 8 virtual processor CPU, not much money at all there, we're able to take input from our airmen around what they thought about their training environment, and it will give a very simple response. The airmen liked it, or in this case, the airmen had their plane crash. That airman didn't like it very much. And you can then take this input, you can do it at scale, and you have the opportunity to, instead of having a manual process where thousands of soldiers and airmen are providing input, having to manage it that way, you can use machine learning cheaply to aggregate that data together and get a litmus, get a data point on how well the training environment is going. All, again, while running in an Impact Level 5 infrastructure that was taken care of in moments by my cloud administrator. So as the application developer, I don't have to worry and stress about making sure that the environment that I'm building in meets my regulatory requirements. So in this case, I'm going to jump to the demo and just show what this looks like. And I know off the bat, you're all thinking that, yes, you would never hire me to do your UX, but you're showing that this is not fake here. Right? In this specific case, this training was great. I learned so much. I love it, right? And in this case, if you respond with a happy face, or if there's a bad one, I had a bad time. My boss is a bully. Why did I join the military? Right? I'm sure someone has written that in a form before if you've ever served. In this case, yes, that's not a happy service member. And so we're able to then get that quick check, and this can be done at scale, fed together. You can get averaged out. And we're doing machine learning here, right? We're providing value at scale. This is what technology is able to deliver to do things a little bit better than we were. And while obviously a token toy example, right, just showing how easy this is to do cheaply and do effectively compared to what we've had in the past. And that's really where most of this benefit really comes into effect. But just because you set it up, right, how do you make sure as my cloud administrator that we're staying in compliance? Because compliance drift, that's draining. Do we have anything there to help?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch to slides real quick. Awesome. So yeah, of course, we want to make sure that our environment, while it is set up in a shift left kind of way, controls are set up predefined already. But of course, these are at the end of the day security controls that you can mess with. I know Chris has been known to mess with some of these controls here. So I keep an eye on him using assured workloads monitoring. It tells me if there was any drift in any of the configuration that was set up by default for you as through the folder workflow I just walked through earlier. It has critical monitoring capabilities which detect and alert me about any violations, the audit log on which admin changed any of these configurations and what did they change it to and when. So maybe there's extra training in scope in their future. And then what are the steps to remediate them or mute the a violation in order to meet any of the business requirements that we may have. Does that help, Chris?
Well, it definitely helps with compliance, and that really saves me a lot of time. But if we're being totally honest, you have a lot more requirements than just compliance. You're always getting on my case about spending too much money. You're always getting on my case about different security requirements, what we do in tests, what we do in dev, and reliability. I know, we got to make reliable workloads. There's always going to be new standards there. And as an application developer, it can sometimes be hard to make sure you keep that all in mind, to not make mistakes, to not forget something one day. Or maybe you have new staff on your team, and you're trying to get them spun up. Well, with this challenge in place, is there anything kind of like assured workloads, any of the guardrails that you have that can help me make sure that I do everything correctly?
If you go to the next slide, I think you might have the answer for you.
Nice.
Beautiful. So yeah, we're happy to announce custom org policies. It's of course, the reliability and security goes beyond compliance, right? Setting up your workload includes all of these other sort of policies as well that your legal, compliance, cost, procurement folks may come to bring for you for your workload. So you're easily able to set up custom org policies to configure things along the lines of reliability, cost control, approved VM images, so security, and many other things like that. Let's look at a quick example on the next page here, or the next slide here. So, I want to make sure that Chris can never spin up a virtual machine without confidential hyperdisk in this IL5 workload. It's a secure, compliant, very tightly sensitive environment, right? I want to make sure no VMs can spin up without confidential hyperdisk in place, which is a great security tool for us. So let's define a custom control to do that, right? So here I identify the identifier or the constraint ID for what that control should look like, as well as I set it up on the specific enforcement resources that I have. So I can set it up on just my IL5 resources or any other tag condition resources that I may have, or across the board in my entire organization. That should keep us in check and not have to put cognitive load on you.
Well, let's see if it works. If we could go to demo real quick, let's validate this hypothesis here. So what we have here is in org policies. This is the custom org policy that my cloud administrator here was just talking about. And if we scroll down here, you can see that it's going to enforce that I have to use confidential hyperdisk. And confidential hyperdisk is a new capability just released by Google that brings that confidential guarantee around security of encryption keys to our hyperdisk storage. And this, again, is a very powerful way to ensure that all of your data is secured to the maximum level possible beyond even what a compliant regulation might require. So if we're doing things like sensitive PII or very sensitive data, this is the absolute best way to derive the benefit of cloud with maximum security. So let's see how effective it is. I'm going to go over to Compute Engine now, and I'm going to try and just spin up a VM. So I'm going to create an instance here, and let's pretend that as an application developer that I didn't realize that we had to use confidential hyperdisks. So just to show what default setting is here right now for a normal instance, we have a new balanced persistent disk. So what should happen if I try and hit create? And right at the gate, we see that we have an error. So coming up here, right, create VM instance has been blocked because of the custom constraint of enforced confidential compute. And so these custom org policies really do, again, new GA product just announced, really do bring such an incredible power to this organization because you can define these bespoke capabilities that keeps application developers from doing things they're not supposed to do. Again, from cost, changing things like how large a disk can be, because 500 gigabytes versus 5,000 gigabytes might be just a typo for a developer. It can be a pretty significant cost increment for making a mistake. And so this helps keep everyone in line and allows organizations at scale to maintain adherence to their requirements. So really powerful ways here to make sure that we're able to meet all of our goals while moving fast and delivering value in a cost-effective method. So with this, I might hand it back to our fearless leader, Simon.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jatin. We'll jump back to the slides. Thank you. So we wanted to show you end-to-end how to bring a compliant workload onto Google Cloud. Hopefully, we've shown you that by bringing software controls instead of an isolated cloud, you can get the full benefit of everything GCP has to offer. You can make use of all of our regions. You can make use of our latest instance types. You've seen many announcements throughout the week. And you'll automatically get those available for your regulated workloads too. We showed you how to build a baseline of compliance using our out-of-the-box compliance regimes. We demoed one, but there are many others, including things like HIPAA for healthcare, and then building additional guardrails on top. So encoding into your Google Cloud deployment the rules, the best practices that you want your development teams to follow. A lot of our demos focused on using Pantheon. That's mostly because if we showed you a bunch of Terraform templates and G-Cloud CLI commands, it's not as visually interesting. I wanted to point out that all of the controls that we showed you today will be enforced regardless of which tooling and which interaction style your developers, your SRE teams use. They're baked into the platform. All of the capabilities that we demoed today are GA. So you can go try this in your own environment immediately after the show. Probably one of the best ways to start is to maybe find a small workload within your current footprint. Could be something you're running on-premise or maybe on another cloud. If you don't have a suitable workload, we published the source code for the demo that we put together. That's a great place to start. Pretty straightforward, small VM, a sort of general purpose instance type. We also wanted to offer for the first time access for everyone here to the Assured Workloads free trial. Most of the Assured Workloads regimes are free. You just pay for the underlying resources that you consume. A few of them, including IL5, which we demoed, there's a 20% upcharge that covers the cost of things like local in-country support. If you scan that QR code, you're invited to try Assured Workloads at absolutely no cost for 60 days. So we think it's a risk-free way to experiment with these controls in your environment. We would be very grateful if you could spend the time to give us a little feedback about this session. I'm sure you've had hundreds of pop-ups on your phone. Chris threatened to put all the feedback through the sentiment analyzer. I said, no, we're actually going to go read it. That's a very important source of feedback for us. One of the reasons we put this session together was we got a lot of feedback saying, give us more hands-on, give us more technical depth. So thank you for that. We also want to meet you and learn a little bit more about your workloads. What do you want to bring onto the cloud but can't? What are the compliance regimes that are maybe on your horizon that we can help make it simple to implement moving forward? We have about 15 minutes or so after the session here. We would love to chat with you over at the front here. You're also welcome to email us. You can contact us using the email addresses there. We touched on a lot of different topics. We couldn't really do justice to all of them. So I wanted to highlight a couple of the other sessions that build on some of the themes we introduced. On the topic of security and compliance, Jatin did an excellent job of sort of giving the high-level overview of what assured workloads is. There's a lot more to learn there. I highly recommend SEC 217. That goes into a lot more detail about some of the other compliance regimes that are available. There was a great session this morning that goes deeper onto sort of the technical underpinnings of confidential compute and confidential accelerators. We touched a little bit on cost control from a rule setting point of view, but there's a lot more to unlock there. Picking the right instance types, the right instance sizes, sizing your disks for your workloads is a very, very deep topic, and we've got a couple of sessions, including the use of ML models to help get that right. So highly recommend checking out those two. We gave a very, very simple example of applying compute engine to do ML. While I'm very, very glad that you all chose to come to this session, there is a competing session right next door, which is co-hosted with Anthropic, and they are showing how to do AI and ML on top of compute engine and GKE at a very different scale. So they're going to be showing how they do inference for Claude on GCE. I highly recommend checking out that session. Thank you so much for your time. You've been a great audience, and we appreciate the opportunity to connect at events like this. Have a good evening.